Hi everyone, Morelli here, and I'm going to be using a Eternatus team built by Huyuno-san. I'll talk about the team and the Eternatus here for a bit. This scarf is a really cool tech because what it does is it allows you to outspeed +1 speed airstream users, and because it is bulky, it won't go down to a single airstream, and you will be able to 2-hit KO them with Dynamax Cannon. The team strongly focuses on trading damage efficiently and winning 1v1s. So each of your Pokemon has good defensive utility. For example, Eternatus is bulky, naturally bulky, and it can revenge a lot with the Scarf. Urshifu has the Focus Sash, of course. Lando has Intimidate and a lot of natural bulk. Cinderace is fast and has Sucker Punch to revenge kill things. And Zapdos and Ferrothorn have the bulk to actually switch into damage, which is going to be our backup plan if we don't get the lead right. Or when they bring in a threat after we get the free KO. This team is an example of a trend that I saw on the higher ladders, where Eternatus was being used on offensive teams as opposed to stall teams. Eternatus has this really oppressive nature about it because if you have an advantageous matchup with it, you simply cannot get rid of that by just Dynamaxing. For example, Cinderace and Zapdos, really infamous for just being able to click that button and just not care about type matchups or Pokemon matchups at all. And that is also true of Behemoth Blade and Zacian, but Eternatus has the advantage of being able to hit Cinderace and Zapdos neutrally. I will leave both the blog post and the Pokepaste down below in the description. Our first game is going to be against the Kyogre user. He has a bulky offense core with the Fire Water Grass synergy here. But he has no resist to Eternatus, so this is very free. Cinderace and Urshifu should clean up the rest. Urshifu with the Focus Sash should be able to check their offensive threats like Volcarona, and Cinderace will be my Dynamax user of choice. Our opponent sends out the Kyogre at lead, so because my Eternatus has pressure, the ability activation will tip off my opponent that I am going to be faster than the Kyogre. If he is Scarf Kyogre, as most Kyogres are, then that will also mean that my Scarf is revealed here on the Eternatus. No reason not to click Dynamax Cannon, and my opponent is in a bit of a pickle here. Unless he has AV, this will easily 2-hit KO him, as he reveals no AV. And even a Specs Ice Beam should not KO the Eternatus due to its defensive investments. A bit of a fortunate crit there, because it seemed like a damage roll there, but thanks to the crit I have no reason to switch out. I probably would have switched out if it weren't for the crit, so that did change things, definitely. And I am able to get the 2-hit KO on the Kyogre. And a bit of a pickle for our opponent here. Whichever Pokemon he brings out will be forced to take this Dynamax Cannon, including this Seismitoad, because due to my Scarf, I will be faster than it even after the Swift Swim boost. I mean, I understand why he did that. Good thought, but poor execution here. So what he thought is, because I will be trying to preserve my Eternatus, he will be able to catch my Ferrothorn switch in and go into Volcarona and try to win with the setup there. But what he didn't realize is the fact that I was Scarfed, which if he were, it seemed like he had no AV, no Life Orb, no Specs, so that was probably Scarf Kyogre, and he should have known that, I was going to be faster, but that he just misplaced that completely and gives away the Volcarona for free. Not that I don't think it really changed the game in any way because I have the Cinderace in the back. And I should be able to clean up with it and ignore the Volcarona trying to win. But yeah, I am going to be able to move faster than the Phasmatode here, as you can see. And his Dynamax times 2 HP increase simply does not matter. I'm just going to be able to pick it up with just about anything, like the Focus Dash Urshifu, for example. Either Urshifu or Cinderace works here. I'm just going to go into Urshifu and close combat because that will let me win without having to Dynamax. And talking about winning without having to Dynamax, I will cover the Spike Move Cup rule set in a future video, so look out for that one if you are interested. And you can read more about the rule set in the Switch News tab, but it is no Dynamax, no restricted legendaries, and you have to be in the Galar decks to be eligible. So this rules out Pokemon like Landorus, Celesteela, and things like that. Our next opponent here has a pretty interesting team. We are still fairly low on the ladder. This is still in Master Ball, but this is just because I just got in there. So we are just gonna lead with the Urshifu. I have the taunt in order to stop Swampert from going for the rocks. So that is good, and I should be able to win a lot of matchups 1v1 with the Focus Sash, unless they Dynamax. Cinderace, I am chucking that move to make sure that I have Sucker Punch. Eternatus looks really good here. Checks Kartana as well. Our opponent decides to lead off with the Calyrex here. Actually, I have seen a lot of Shadow Ladder Calyrex on higher ladder Nozuka teams. Even though I didn't really get a feel for it that it was common. I feel like people just wanted to use it because it's the first time it's been available, regardless of how good it actually was. But I mean, it is now something that is on my radar, something that I will try to look out for. He will be able to go for the Max Mindstorm here, which means that he denies the Sucker Punch. So that would be a good play by him, if not for the fact that I am Scarf on my Eternatus. So I'm just able to trade this Urshifu for his 2 turns of Dynamax here. So yeah, that did a sizable chunk, so if he didn't Dynamax, Surging Strikes plus Aqua Jet would have picked him off for sure. I just go for the taunt, like whatever I go for really doesn't matter. There's no way he doesn't attack. And taunt is like good if in case he switches out, maybe, kind of, not really, but yeah. I could have just clicked just about anything, didn't want to click Aqua Jet. And this is in range of the Dynamax cannon, which he has very little counterplay for. He might have the Tyranitar in the back, but it is a bit of a tough call to say like he should go straight into the Tyranitar. Expect the Scarf Eternatus, especially if you don't like look up high ladder teams, right? So this is another advantage of you get by looking these teams up, because you're gonna have the informational advantage. So because of the Psychic Terrain, I have no choice but to go Eternatus and click Dynamax Cannon. And let's see if he knows my team or not. And it seems that he just stays in, so he didn't expect it. And that should easily take out this Calyrex. And let's see what he goes into, because if he has Tyranitar, he will bring it out. And I will try to clean up with my Cinderace. And he goes Swampert, so no Cinderace for no Tyranitar for him. And it seems like I'll be able to just clean up whatever he has in the back with Cinderace. He could go for a lot of things that are annoying. He could go for Yawn. He could go for Mirror Coat. If he goes for Yawn, I'll just stay in and just get slept and try to stall out the sleep turns. But he goes for the Ice Beam, and I don't get frozen, so I'll be able to get this to a KO. It does seem kind of like a roll, but no harm, especially if he is just gonna go for the Ice Beam. Yeah, another crit here. I did get a lot of crits this recording, but this one I don't think really mattered. The first Kyogre one definitely did, but Zapdos is not going to be able to win this here. We have a bit of a hyper offense team here with a lot of setup support. He got either Ilecki or Coco could be a screen support, Stealth Rock support, Tailwind support. There's a lot of support stuff that they have. Eternatus should be able to pressure most things on their team with a good Sludge Bomb. And I'll be able to bring the Lando to cover the Exca matchup. And I'll be able to bring the Pharaoh for the Fairy Resist. Eternatus and Coco both have 130 base speed. So Eternatus, because I am Scarf, I am faster, my pressure activates first. But because they think we are both a speed tie, he might just stay in. So I have no reason not to click Sludge Wave here. And he does go for the speed tie and doesn't get it. I do think that was a bit of a misplay by him, but I wanted to cover that precise exact play. And that is a misplay only if he had Excadrill in the back. If he didn't, then he wouldn't have a switch in at all. But he does show the Excadrill, yeah, as I expected. So I'm just gonna go into Landorus as I initially said I would, which is going to intimidate the Excadrill and put on immediate offensive pressure. Especially if I can switch into an Earthquake, that would be really nice. Either Earthquake or Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock is very greedy, but it'd be nice if I can go into an Earthquake here. He goes for the Rock Tomb and he gets the crit. I can't really complain here, but so I'm just gonna go for the Earthquake. Bring the thing down to Sash. And hoping the Ferrothorn can win 1v1 against the Xerneas. And should be able to, especially if I can get some chip damage on the turn that I am setting up with. I do go into Ferrothorn here. One reason is it covers the Iron Head switch, and the other is that if I have Ferrothorn out on the field on the turn that Xerneas sets up, that's going to be posing a much bigger offensive pressure on the Xerneas. So a good play by my opponent going for the Earthquake as opposed to the Iron Head, and he is going to go for the Brick Break and bring himself down. Indeed, like I think it was a really good play going for the Earthquake, but because I had to Intimidate on it, it's not going to be doing enough damage on the Ferrothorn. I will Dynamax Max Steel Spike. I think it is weaker, but at the same time, I just don't want to get Focus Blasted. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure if I should have gone into Ferrothorn or not. Even though, like, yeah, I understand why I did it, but at the same time, I'm not terribly sure if that was the best play because now I am in Focus Blast range, +2 Focus Blast range. So I'm gonna have to pray that he either doesn't have Focus Blast, in which case he cannot get this KO, or if he has it, he either misses or mistakenly goes for the Dynamax. Or I could just get the crit, I guess. Bit of a lucky day. And a bit of an interesting game here. We are going to have a bit of a mirror matchup here. And yeah, if you are using one of these more popular vlog teams, you're gonna have to get used to this. You're gonna see a lot of other blog teams on the ladder, and knowing all this is going to benefit you in terms of playing out this matchup. Here I go for both the Zapdos and the Landorus because both of them look really good offensively for us. So he's going to lead Eternatus, and I'm able to lead with my Eerie Impulse Zapdos, which has a pretty good matchup against most of his team. There's always the chance that he could have changed the set, but I'm going to expect the Scarf, and I'm just going to go for the Eerie Impulse. And he does 130 with the Dynamax Cannon, which if he is just modest, then that is absolutely the 100% max roll. So hopefully I can live this one, because that would be pretty lame. And I live on 1 HP with the Zapdos, so he did 66 this time. So that is also actually the max roll, -2 modest Eternatus can do. So fortunately I do live it, no crits, so not the end of the world. I can just recover off because now I'm recovering a lot more than he is able to heal off. And he goes into his Landers. I'm pretty sure at this point that we both have the same 3 Pokemon. And I just recover all the way to full health with Zapdos. And I think he's just gonna Swords Dance here, so I just call that, make the hard read, and I'm just gonna go for the max Airstream. And my Zapdos is slower than his Landers, so not going for Dynamax is good. If he doesn't go for the SD, he goes for the Rock Slide or something, that is even better actually. I mean, it matters, it changes very little, more so, because if he goes for the Swords Dance as he does here, and yeah, he's gonna be able to force to switch out. He's not gonna be doing any chip damage on the Zapdos at all. And I do more than 2/3 to him. 2/3 is an important benchmark, because that means that even with him Dynamaxing this Landorus, he won't be able to survive the next hit. So he will either have to sack this Landorus, in which case then I'll just Eerie Impulse all over their Zapdos and try to win the game 2v3, or he switches out to Zapdos, which is fair. So I'm just gonna go all the way up to +3 here, because I just want to be the faster Zapdos if possible. And because he took a ton of damage, he is the one under pressure to actually make any progress in this game. So he does go for the Eerie Impulse here there, as opposed to Dynamaxing or anything. I kind of expected him to Dynamax. If I expected the Eerie Impulse, I would have definitely just gone for the Max Lightning and gotten the 2-hit KO, even through the -2 special attack. So now I kind of resign myself to the fact that I'm just gonna get Eerie Impulsed all over. I cannot break the Zapdos. But that is actually not the most important thing here. The fact is, I am actually in no pressure to actually make progress on the Zapdos, you know? And that is because I have the HP advantage on the Landorus. So if our two Zapdos get in a stalemate and he goes and the game ends 3v3, then I'm gonna win because he took a lot of damage on the Lando and I took no damage elsewhere. So he is eventually forced to go for the Landorus switch here. So I'm just gonna actually use all my 16 PPs of Hurricane and spend all my time doing so. And I'm gonna edit all of that out if possible. So on this turn I go for the quick Hurricane, and interestingly enough he does go for the Lando. I thought he would heal up his Zapdos to full, you know, because as you saw, Eternatus can 2-hit KO the Zapdos 1v1 because he is not at max health. So like that is, I think that is a very big misplay by him to switch out the Lando, switch out into Lando that hastily. And here I'm just gonna go for the Hurricanes, and he does go for the Dynamax, which it is the correct play, but it's a gutsy play to make, knowing that it is at such low HP. I do miss the Hurricane as well, so and he does go for the max Rockfall. So this is not the best situation for me. If I got the Hurricane, I would have definitely gotten the 2-hit KO, but Hurricane 2-hit KO is not the most reliable thing to go for, so I can't really complain. But yeah, so that's why I went for the Hurricane. Those were my best odds. And a bit of a tricky turn here for me. And because if I roost on the Rockfall, that is very good with the Key Berry, but it's so good that there's a good chance that he'll just read me going for the roost. So I go for the Hurricane, and he goes for the Max Quake, and that absolutely pays off for me. And I'm just gonna go for another Hurricane. It looks like the next one's gonna KO. So will it land? Will he switch out? Well, let's see what happens. If he switches out, then I'll just be able to roost on that. So, and fortunately, I do get the Hurricane hit. So let's go. One bad thing is if he goes Eternatus, I'm at too low HP. I can't just roost on that because that did more than half, and I'm just gonna have to go for the Eerie Impulse and let him take my Zapdos out. But my own Eternatus can beat their Zapdos 1v1 because and they cannot switch into it. So I'm just happy going for the Eerie Impulse. That will let my own Eternatus beat his in a 1v1, which is especially important because you realize he had different orders, so that means that he built his own team as opposed to using the rental code. So what that enables him to do is go for speed creep. So there's a good chance that his Eternatus is actually like 1 point faster than my own, so this Eerie Impulse is gonna cover that case, make sure that my Eternatus comes out on top. So yeah, it took a little bit of while making my own calcs, but it really didn't matter. I have no other play than Dynamax Cannon, so it's a bit silly by me, but you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like even though I'm gonna click that exact same button, I still want to know what my odds are going into that. Like, I'm sure someone here can empathize with that. Like going for the ideal play. What you should do is go for the calcs before all this plays out, and inform your decisions. But here I am just not making the calcs when they mattered. But you still want to know what I still want to know what my odds are going in. And the calcs are that Eternatus cannot one-hit KO each other because they're so damn bulky. So I'm gonna be able to get this damage off on him even if he gets the speed time win or if he has a speed creep. And I also am not really favored in that role to KO him back, but because he has Sandstorm Chip and I have also the Lando in the back, so unless he wins all the speed ties and gets all the gets a few crits, he could pull this one off. But so yeah, he does get a very high roll, but not enough to knock out my Eternatus. As you can see in the Pokepaste, it has quite a bit of special defense investment. And I also get a high roll. No, a crit. So yeah, a lot of crits here, but I will take it. Another really good matchup for the offensive Eternatus here. I'm able to outspeed the majority of his team and threaten either a 2-hit KO or even a 1-hit KO. A lot of things are hit super effectively by Flamethrower or Dynamax Cannon. Zacian can switch in, but so can I with my defensive Keyberry Zapdos. And once that is paralyzed, Cinderace should be able to go to town with it. He leads off with the Darmanitan, and most Darmanitan are Choice Scarf, and that is able to usually outspeed and one-hit the Eternatus. But I do calc that Flamethrower is going to KO 100% of the time, and in fact, even if I were to be Timid Scarf, I have 15 out of 16 chance of KOing it. So if he knows that this is Scarf Eternatus, he might have switched out, but he is of course not aware of that. Darmanitan goes down for free, and that is really good for me. Zacian will get 2-hit KO'd by Flamethrower, and he is able to live, by he I mean Eternatus is going to be able to live a Behemoth Blade. But if he has Quick Attack, then Blade plus Quick Attack has a pretty good chance to KO, so I'm just gonna play it safe and go into my Zapdos and activate my Keyberry on the Behemoth Blade, and that will let me go stall this out with Roosts. Of course, he goes out into something else, so he does have a few switch-in possibilities here. Possibly the most likely is the Landorus, but he does go for the switch out here, and what is it? He brings out his own Zapdos. Yeah, Zapdos also a decent possibility here. So I'm just gonna Eerie Impulse on this Zapdos mirror, which will let me bring in something else and try to win that. Or if I'm perfectly also fine setting on his own Zapdos and winning this, bringing it down to the timer. And not sure what he was doing with that series sequence of switch-ins there, but I am just gonna go for the Eerie Impulse, and nothing has changed really. In fact, that let me go for a free Roost, and I am in the same position that I was 2 turns ago, but at higher health. So now that I'm at full health, I feel fairly comfortable going for the discharge here. And the combination of static plus discharge will mean that he will have to get fairly lucky with the Zacian in order to actually come out of this matchup without having to without getting paralyzed. So he does. Wow, that play rough did surprisingly a lot of damage. So I'm just gonna be able to get the paralysis here. Fortunately, good thing that he just didn't try to go for the 2-hit KO. So, and he will go for the sword stance, and that means that I won't be able to just roost all this out. But because he cannot Dynamax, and because my Cinderace is now faster than the Zacian with the paralysis, I am just gonna put as much damage on this as possible, and I'm just gonna let my Zapdos go down. A pretty fortunate discharge, full paralysis there, because that would have done a ton with the play rough. So, and this time he doesn't get the KO, so I am just gonna be able to finish this off with the discharge. And my Zapdos has very minimal speed investment, so that means that unless he is also like uninvested Zapdos, the odds are he is going to be able to go into his own Zapdos and get the Thunderbolt. But just in case, I will go for the Eerie Impulse in case I'm faster, and that will really make it difficult for the Zapdos to do anything. And in fact, I do go first. And here we have Giga Impact Cinderace, and a big part of that is that I am able to slow down the opposing Dynamax Zapdos and win this 1v1 against opposing offensive Zapdos. But the thing is, because he has Eerie Impulse and he is probably defensive, this Giga Impact slowdown is not going to be super impactful. But because he is slower than my Zapdos, or at best a speed tie, that means that even with the +2 speed on the Zapdos, that he will be slower than my Scarf Eternatus. So that is meaningful. I'm gonna go for the Max Strike once, and that will make sure that I am faster than the Zapdos even after the the Airstream. And this will give him less chances to crit me or anything dumb like that. And here, he does absolutely nothing. That is very defensive, very slow. And I'm just gonna go for the Max Darkness twice. And that will make sure that my Eternatus will win 1v1 against his Zapdos. Actually, the way that damage roll seemed makes it seem like the first Giga Impact was a very low roll. But because I was just thinking the Giga Impact damage, I just thought that I was never gonna 3-hit KO the Zapdos. So, bit of a mistake here by me. It's going for the Max Darkness as opposed to going for the straight up KO there. Yeah, definitely should have tried to look at how much damage it was taking and change my game plan there, but didn't do that. And let's see if this Max Darkness will get the roll. And it does. So, bit of a fortunate series of games here, but I will take it. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye.